This demonstration is for the doodle drawing. For this project, we're going to be talking about shapes, positive and negative space, and also what is doodling. The shapes that we're going to be using will be organic shapes, not to be confused with what we know as geometric shapes. Geometric shapes are what I call math shapes, like circles, squares, and triangles. Organic shapes are shapes that come from nature. So a lot of times we call those blob shapes because they're just kind of random. They don't always have to be curvy like this. They can also be jagged, but they just can't be perfectly regular, almost like man-made shapes. So these are geometric and those are organic. We talk about how doodling is just where you start with a shape and then it might become something else. So this organic shape might become some sort of funny looking creature. This organic shape might become a tree if we're doodling. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about space, positive and negative space. Positive space would be an object like this funny looking creature, and the negative space would be the space around that object. Okay, so to do this doodle drawing project, you're going to start by drawing organic shapes starting from the edge of the paper into the center of the paper. Don't crisscross those shapes, and don't worry about what shape they are right now. We're going to fill those in. Something you do probably want to do, what you will probably want to do, is add some X's inside of those. These are going to be our positive shapes or positive space. So it gets a little confusing once you start putting in extra. They don't all have to be the same size. You can have some smaller ones, but you don't want 50 or 60 of these. You want probably 10 or 12 different ones. Okay, once you have your positive shapes drawn, now it's time to start adding in details to make those into something. You don't want to make all ghost shapes because that's too easy. You want to be more creative than that. So for this shape here, you can look at it one direction. If you have trouble figuring out what it is, you can turn it a different direction if you want, and then you're going to start adding in details. So if I'm working on this shape, to me it looks a little bit like a face. So maybe I can add some funny looking eyes, ear, hair, funny nose. It's very much like a cartoon. And then I can even kind of make it look funnier by adding a weird tongue or a shape coming out. But you don't want to just work with part of the shape. You also want to add other details to make the rest of the shape more interesting also. Once you add one shape, or once you fill in one of the positive spaces, then you'll move on and you'll fill in more. Here's one where we have a couple different pieces filled in, Here's another example with the positive spaces. Once we fill in the positive spaces, then we move on to step 2. But first off, you want to fill in all of these positive spaces that you have your X's in. Be creative, draw neatly, draw lightly. You can always erase if you need to.